like that. Like retired athletes either do something within their chosen like profession or they don't. You know what I mean?
It's funny. It's with as far as that goes in the schools, I don't know what else I would do. I don't think I could be like an industry rah-rah guy. It's just not who I am.
Right.
And I like to teach and share my experience with people.
That's cool.
It's like the one thing I really understand is the ocean, and that's one thing that's really kind of an always evolving.
Yeah.
It's always evolving. It's always changing. Every 10, 15 minutes, the ocean changes. And,
yeah.
To explain that to people and explain that why it's changing, and it's just cool. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that's your, that's where you live, and that's like your passion your entire life. And like that, for you to be able to kind of like master that and then transfer that information to other people is really like a positive thing, and that's kind of why I wanted to sit down with you. When I had told Abby about, I was like, I was thinking about interviewing Sam Hammer. Do you know him? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, well, that's perfect, because like this show's called Longshots, and the full title is like Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things. And being from New Jersey, you kind of are a long shot to be a pro surfer, right? So just kind of take me through, like, as a beginning, you said, on Friday we kind of talked a little bit about your love for the ocean and how that spawned into this. Yeah,
I mean, it started, as every kid fantasizes about doing something that they love. Some people it's baseball, some people it's football, some people it's acting, and someone wants to be the richest person in the world, so it just depends on what your aspirations are as a young kid, and just kind of setting your mind to it and having a strong work ethic, and that was the key, I think, is I was ingrained with a great work ethic because I watched my family with the restaurant, and the restaurant business is tough. Anybody that's in it and knows it, it's brutal, ups and downs with weather and unexpected events like the one we're currently in, and there's just so many different variables. And my family's had their restaurant for over 40 years. And before that they had other restaurants, but the Crab's Claw has been a staple in Lavalette for 40 years. And you think about everything that happens within 40 years, and to have any business for 40 years, let alone like a seasonal restaurant. And it's like my dad's there every day, grinding. He's just the way he is, and it's I've seen that growing up. My parents were there every day working, and when you just kind of, I don't know, my dad, he was awesome in the way he motivated me. He wouldn't, he wasn't like an overbearing parent, like he wasn't like a soccer dad or anything. He wasn't like, hey, you have to go do this, you have to go do that. It's like he just like leave little quotes around here and there. And
that's
it's
cool.
Like, all right, I get it. It's cool, but like those things stick in your head.
Sure.
And it was all famous quotes from different people, and you'd always remember those quotes. And the best one he always would tell me is, it doesn't matter how good you are, somebody younger than you is working harder than you. And it used to drive me nuts.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that's so true.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. So that was always in the back of my head and always made me want to work hard. And I was really fortunate where I grew up. I could walk to the beach. I was 6 homes from the beach, about 150 yards.
Sweet.
So that was awesome, and just lucky to have that and just be able to walk up and go surf with one or two of my buddies. And
that's awesome. Yeah.
We also, where I grew up too, there was a lot of good surfers, so you got to look up to a lot of people and experience that.
So that work ethic that you're talking about, how does that translate when it's flat?
When it was flat and I was home, I would skateboard. Or one of my really good friends growing up, he had like the craziest half pipes in his backyard, so we were constantly skateboarding. If there was no waves, that's what we did. And then I wouldn't surf for about 4 months every year due to wrestling, from 7th grade on.
Oh, sweet.
And, it's kind of funny that also ingrains a work ethic. That sport's a grind. It's not an easy sport. It puts you in uncomfortable positions continuously, whether it's, practicing, trying to make weight, and then facing, a really tough challenge, with a good wrestler. So you're always really, really grinding in that sport, and I really think that had a lot to do. That sport really gave me confidence, because I was very quiet and shy growing up, and wrestling, is like, once you start winning, you start feeling better about yourself, and that sport is, I couldn't give enough credit to how that sport helped me in my life.
That's true, because like a lot of the qualities that are instilled, or I guess messages that are instilled in you as a young athlete through high school sports carried to today. Like I had a coach in lacrosse, dude, that was just like a hard-nosed guy. You know what I mean? And like that type of stuff, like, you don't think at the time, because you're a young man, that it's really like, but it's like getting instilled in you as a person. You know what I mean? And it's
absolutely. My wrestling coach was awesome. He was quiet, but when you did something wrong, you knew it.
You know it.
And he was a great coach. He coached so differently. It was kind of bizarre, like the relationship with
wouldn't carry on today.
No. The things he said definitely wouldn't carry on.
Yeah.
But he wasn't saying anything bad. He got the best out of people, though, and that's a really, really hard thing to do.
Sure.
It's hard, and especially you're working with kids, and sometimes they don't want to be there. And
telling like a 15 or 16-year-old kid that can eat like cheesesteak to make weight,
stuff.
Right?
Yeah, the stuff was like, legendary, and it really set a tone in how I did things at an early age.
That's cool. So now you're out in California and you're working for this surf school. Is that where you got, more exposure for brands to kind of take a look at you?
Not really.
To get that sponsorship?
Well, rewind 25 years, there's really no internet, there's no social media.
Right.
There's really no way to get your name and stuff out there until people actually see you. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it, was going to contests. Everything was contest driven, especially in the amateur ranks. And there was two different things. There was the NSSA and the ESA. Mm-hmm. Eastern Surfing Association and the National Scholastic Surfing Association, and those were the minor leagues. That's where you learned that's where you went up to see how good you were, because everybody did them. It wasn't like today where some of the kids that don't want to ever do contests, they don't have to do contests, which is that's awesome. They're so lucky.
Yeah.
But when we were younger, you had to go fight against the best of the best continuously in the East Coast and Nationals. And growing up, New Jersey was really, really strong, like super strong. And it's still strong, but, it was almost one of the, I couldn't be more grateful for the time period that I grew up in, with battling with guys in the state and then out of the state. And mm-hmm. So you really, I don't know, you had to go and try to beat those guys. And it was hard for people that weren't, like I didn't surf year round. These guys are in the water and traveling, and so I got my ass kicked a bunch, but it teaches you a lesson, and with every defeat you learn a lot, and what you should have done, what you could have done, and I don't know.
That's cool. Competing at a young age against a high level, that's super intimidating, right? So like there's that's a brand new fear for you, which I'm sure a lot of it can translate from being a wrestler as a young person. But then like that fear that you're on the beach is different than the fear that's in the water. So like a kind of a driving theme in our show is kind of like how fear prevents people from doing many great things, and like a lot of the I myself felt like fear even about like doing this project, like sitting here, like thinking about like, oh, what is everybody going to be thinking about me? And like that fear is different than being in a situation where you have to like kind of compartmentalize that. And like, do you see that like as fear being two different things but the same, or is it like?
Yeah, there's as fear comes in so many different forms. When I was wrestling, if I was fearful of somebody, I lost. Mm-hmm. No, there's no...
Right.
you're not gaining confidence in that match, because then you fear them, you're hesitant, you fall behind, you can't come back. You know, same thing in surfing. There are so many guys that I especially when I was younger, and it took me a really long time to learn how to win heats at the highest levels. Not the highest level, but like I never was at that highest level, but I was just below. And the to win heats, it's hard, man. And
yeah, I bet.
I would always look at the bracket and see who I was up against, and oh man, this guy's in my heat. Like I got to pull it all out.
Yeah.
And it's not the case. You know, everyone's not going to have a career moment in that 20-minute span.
Yep.
And that's kind of, you know, you think of the videos, you think of this, you think of stuff you've seen, the hype these people get, but everyone's beatable on any given day. And that's the one thing that it really took me a long time to realize. So, you know, growing up wrestling, like I said, I was scared of a few people, I lost. Surfing, I was scared of a few people, I lost. And so fear in that sense, I wish I learned at an earlier age that, see, they're just people just like you and me, and everyone's not shining 24/7, 365. Anyone could be beaten on any given day.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that was a hard lesson to learn, but, you know, once I finally learned it, it was probably too late for my competitive surfing career, but it's still a good thing to learn, and just to kind of be a little bit more relaxed and not get as you know, if someone's in your draw that you don't want, or you think you can't beat, that's the complete wrong mindset to have. Yeah. You know, and it that kind of has translated a little bit into, you know, later life, and just try not to have as much fear in certain situations. You know, obviously fear is, everyone has fear of something.
Yeah. And a healthy fear.
In a healthy fear, you shouldn't let it overwhelm
humbling,
you ever.
You know,
and that's the thing.
But preventing you from doing something.
Don't ever,
Yeah. Like, you know, and that's, I guess, the definition of courage, right? You walk into something where you're like fearful, but you do it anyway. You know what I mean, type of thing.
And then fear on waves, like, dude, everyone gets. I don't care who you are. I mean, somebody has to have some sort of fear in the back of their head. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it, because they wouldn't get the adrenaline rush.
Right, you get a buzz from it. Yeah, for sure.
So everybody has a respectful fear for the ocean, and, you know, that's healthy.